Hey guys, this is Ray, owner of Double R Diesel. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't heard, there's been a lot of news coming out of Washington, D.C. from the EPA in the past couple of days. And there's a lot of misinformation out there that is rolling off of this announcement. So I'm going to try to bring some truth and some light to this, and hopefully it'll make sense to you guys. So the big news is that Lee Zeldin has made an announcement that the EPA is going to be looking into DEF requirements even further, and basically in this coming year make a decision whether DEF is a really big problem, and if it is a really big problem further than what they originally suspected, that DEF may be taken off the table entirely, but that's yet to be determined. So let me just say right here, right now, that no one in the government and no one within the EPA has said yet that DEF is going to be no more. And furthermore, nobody has said that EGRs, DPFs are going to be on the table for removal as well. That has not been mentioned, none whatsoever. So as far as legality of delete, that's not here or there yet. But let's talk about what's going on. So you go over to the EPA's website, you can see I've got it pulled up here. Administrator Zeldin takes additional measures to address diesel exhaust fluid DEF issues for American farmers and truckers. Okay, so if you read the article here, it says the Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Lee Zeldin took another step to further the Trump EPA's work to address concerns from farmers, truckers, motor coach operators, and other diesel equipment operators regarding DEF system failures. So follow up to the guidance that was issued last August, and basically the guidance issued last August says that they were going to change how the D rates would kick in when the DEF system either ran out of fluid or the DEF system failed. Now keep in mind, I'm only talking about DEF. I'm not talking about EGRs. I'm not talking about DPFs. I'm not talking about anything other than SCR stuff or DEF stuff. So make sure you understand that moving forward. But basically the new guidance that the EPA put out basically says they're going to stretch the D rates out further. So instead of a vehicle being limited to say 5 miles per hour immediately, then you've got more mileage to go before it derates, and it might not slow all the way down to 5 miles per hour. It might be limited to 45 and so on and so forth. There's a list on the EPA website. I've mentioned it before. You can check it out, and it's got a breakdown of what they're proposing currently. But what's being talked about now is taking it a step further. So you can see the quote here from Zeldin. As I traveled to all 50 states during my first year as the EPA administrator, I've heard from truck drivers, farmers, and many others rightly complaining about DEF and pleading for a fix. EPA understands this is a massive issue, which is why we've already established common sense guidance to manufacturers to update the DEF system, like I mentioned before. Today, we're furthering that work and demanding detailed data to hold manufacturers accountable for the continued system failures. The Trump EPA is committed to ending unnecessary frustrations and delays and days lost on the road in the field of the American farmers and truckers. So they understand there's a problem. They've already taken some measures to reduce D rates, but they're looking at this even further. They're actually going to, and which they already have, they're going to hit up manufacturers to find out exact data when it comes to DEF system failures and repairs and so on and so forth. Says under Section 208 under the Clean Air Act, EPA is authorized to require manufacturers to provide information needed to assess whether emission control systems are functioning properly and whether manufacturers are meeting their obligations to identify and fix defects. So the EPA is demanding information from the top 14 on-road and non-road manufacturers that account for 80% of all products used in DEF systems. Specifically, EPA is requiring data on warranty claims, failure rates, and repair information for model years 2016, 2019, 2023 emission control products to determine whether ongoing DEF system failures are related to specific generations of products. Manufacturers have 30 days to provide the requested information. Failure may result in additional inquiries or penalties. That sounds like how it is when they came after me for my civil case. They said, we want such information. You've got so many days to get it to us or else. So the EPA is kind of hitting up the manufacturers for all these components. I'm sure they're hitting up all the major engine manufacturers as well as all the subcontractors that make these components for the major manufacturers, and provide data on warranty claims, failures, repair information, so on and so forth. And they're sampling specifically 2016, 2019, and 2023 model years. So basically that tells me they want to see if the technology has been improving over the years and the newer stuff fails less. I would just go ahead and say, no, it's not really improved too much as far as between 2016 and 2023. They're still having the same problems, if you ask me. But anyway, they're going to try to find this out. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at this, it all depends on whether the manufacturers will supply actual factual data. I will say this before I go any further. Repairing this stuff, replacing DEF system parts, is a big business for manufacturers. Now, it's a problem for us as consumers and fleet owners and shop owners and that sort of thing. But for the manufacturers, they make a lot of money off selling these replacement parts. I would just say that it could go either way. They might tell the truth or they might not, because they probably still would like to sell these parts and make a lot of money off of it. We shall see. But anyway, the article goes on and it talks about the whole thing, how DEF started, and anyway, how by 2027 they're going to do something totally, everything's going to come from the factory as far as diesel wise with updated D-rate statuses. And anyway, in this article, it links another article which talks about how it pertains to farmers. And this is where it kind of gets interesting. So let me go to this other article on the EPA's website. EPA advances farmers' right to repair their own equipment, saving repair costs and productivity. Says today the Environmental Protection Agency advanced American farmers and equipment owners' lawful right to repair their farm and other non-road diesel equipment. So they're saying right now that farmers and people who own off-road diesel equipment have the right to repair. And what does that mean? Well, right to repair basically means that you can do whatever you deem necessary to get your piece of equipment out of D-rate non-functioning status back up and operational, so you can get the crops out of the field or make preparation for the crops, or pull your logs around in the logging operations, or whatever the case may be, get it back going so you can be productive. You can read all this article here, and it talks about how the EPA has determined that it never should have been taken to the effect that people couldn't make their own necessary repairs to get something going again, which we all know that the EPA in times past have always said, no, you can't touch it. You got to go ahead and fix it. But anyway, they're saying we've got the right to repair our farm equipment now. And it actually give guidance, specific guidance. And you can click right here and it'll give you a PDF document. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And here's the actual guidance with regarding right to repair non-road and farm equipment. So, dated January 30th, 2026, says subject clarification regarding the practice of temporarily disabling aspects of emission control system or components to repair and maintain a non-road engine. Now, keep in mind, this is not on-road stuff. This is only off-road stuff. You can read the whole letter, and it talks about how Section 203 says you can't remove, render inoperative any device or element design when it comes to emissions. In other words, you can't delete, you can't cheat the systems, you can't do what I got in trouble for, and so on and so forth. But it does say that according to Section 203, also it says, no action with respect to any device or element of design referred to in paragraph 3, which is up here, shall be treated as a prohibited act under that paragraph if the action is for the purpose of repair or replacement of the device or element, or is a necessary or temporary procedure to repair or replace any other item, and the device or element is replaced upon completion of this procedure, and such action thereafter results in a proper functioning of the device or element referred in paragraph 3. So basically, the EPA is now quoting another part of the Clean Air Act that they used to use against us, now saying, no, that's not how you interpret it. This is saying that, yeah, you can repair it. You can do whatever you need to do as long as you fix it and get it fixed to meet emission standards as quickly as possible. It goes on, talks about it more, and here's some key wordage here. It says, we interpret the reference text in aggregate to mean that using one or more procedures, go back up here, this is addressed to manufacturers. Understand this. This is addressed to manufacturers, not private individuals. But it says we interpret to mean that using one or more procedures and or tools that temporarily take a product out of certified regulations, basically you can delete it temporarily, as necessary to perform maintenance or repair are not prohibited acts, provided the engine is returned to its certified configuration before being returned to service. Now, that's going to be loosely interpreted. Additionally, we note that the reference text places no limitations upon particular characteristics of the tools utilized for the above reference repair procedures, such as whether or not such a tool is available to the general public. It is the EPA's position that manufacturers should not misread the Clean Air Act to create an adjustable parameter, such as an inducement override actuated by a switch or generic tool, without either demonstrating emissions compliance with adjustable parameter active, or such that an action can be used for the purpose of repair or replacement of a device or element, or it is necessary temporarily procedure to repair or replace any other item the element is replaced upon completion of procedure, and such action thereafter results in proper functioning of that device or element. So, furthermore, it says, any manufacturer may do this by limiting the period of the override once the repair is completed, including the necessary period for system learning. So filling the inducement override should be automatically ended. So basically, they're saying if a manufacturer goes in here and introduces a delete software, that it should end automatically after a period of time to make sure that you have time to repair it. If the fault that led to the inducement remains active after the repair, the system should return to the induced state that existed prior to the repair. Okay, so let's try to make sense of all this jargon right here. And I don't understand it fully myself, but basically they're saying that the Clean Air Act does give provisions. It's loosely worded and it can be interpreted many ways. That's the problem with all this. But anyway, it can be interpreted as saying that you can say, for example, your tractor breaks down in the middle of the cornfield and it goes in derate mode and won't do no more than idle. Well, they're saying that it's interpreted that you can go out there, reprogram the tractor, pull off the DPF, whatever it's got to take to get it back going full functioning again temporarily to do the job, but you got to commit to getting it repaired ASAP and bringing it back into compliance ASAP. Okay, that's basically what they're saying. I'll say this: it is loosely worded. It leaves a lot for interpretation, but this is, like I said, this is only non-road stuff. But what if we were given the right to repair for on-road stuff, which I think is coming? Somebody like myself could provide somebody a tuner and a delete tune file to get the truck back going, and also provide the customer a stop file to put the truck back in compliance after the repair is made. That might be legal. I'm not going to comment any further, but understand what I'm saying. If we get the right to repair for highway stuff, I could sell a tuner with a delete tune file, and so then turn around and make sure you got a stock tune file to put back on it after your repair's made and be legal. We shall see. There's no mention here. It's addressed to manufacturers, okay? And like I said, this is off-road equipment, not on-road equipment yet. But it doesn't say that it has to be documented or any form of fashion that the repair was made. So there's a lot of loose interpretation that could come here. Could we see this in on-road stuff? I hope so. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. I've always said that, we should have the ability to delete after a useful life, or be able to make the right to repair, which is what we're talking about here with ag, off-road equipment, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to maybe bring some clarity to all this. Maybe this will make sense, but the main gist of this is things are still moving in the right direction. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're seeing things move forward. And when it's all said and done by the end of 2026, we might not have an amended Clean Air Act that specifically says you can delete your truck or delete your tractor, but there might be some changes on guidance that will allow it to happen, even though it's not specifically legalized, if that makes sense. But anyway, tell me what you think, guys. This is a subject for discussion. Please make your comments. I welcome them. I'd love to see everybody's perspective on this, both good and bad. And as always, keep pushing this information to your elected representatives. We want to see some things changed. And while the fire is burning, make sure you fan the flames, guys. As always, thank you for following along. God bless each and every one of you. And we'll see you again soon.